Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X-Men number 64, cover dated May 1997. So we have Cannonball upside down on this cover. There is this syringe pointed at his chest. And what is in the syringe? Well, readers of the previous two parts of this three-part story would know it's the elixir vitae, that is Fu Manchu's mystical solution for eternal life, and there is an idea that maybe it might inoculate mutants against the legacy virus or even cure mutants who have contracted the legacy virus. So that's what's going on in this three-part storyline, but Cannonball is being taken prisoner and it looks like he is being forcibly subjected to an injection of the elixir vitae. The cover is by Carlos Pacheco, inked by Thibert and coloured by Liquid, that is Christian Lichtner. And it's a pretty good one. The digital colouring in particular looks really well on this cover. And just keep an eye on how well the digital colours look on the cover, the glossy stock of the cover, versus some of the inner pages which are not glossy stock. Let's open this one up to the first page. Something that Carlos Pacheco has been doing with every first page of this three-part storyline is a type of title page. So the title is Games of Deceit and Death, Part 3 of 3. The creative team here, Scott Lobdell on plot, Ben Raab on script. Ben Raab was an editor in the X Office, and now he's providing the script for the three parts of this storyline. And in my opinion, not doing a great job. And I'll talk more about that as I get into the issue. Carlos Pacheco on pencils, Arthur Edward Thibert on inks, so R. Thibert using his full name there for the credit, Richard Starkings on Comicraft on the digital letters, Christian Lichtner, Aaron Luzin and Liquid Color on the digital colors. But you can see just the difference between the glossy stock cover, all of the fine detail of the digital coloring comes through, but here on the newsprint, some of that detail is lost on the page. And what we're seeing here on this page would look much better on computer screen and, as I said, on glossy stock. So the syringe is there and the elixir vitae. Here's our dramatis personae, the various X-Men featuring there, and also let's see the Kingpin, who showed up at the end of the previous issue, and Shang Chi, who was guest starring in this three-part storyline. So turn the page, we get a splash of the Kingpin. Basically, he's going over the same dialogue from the end of the previous issue. That's a really nice shot of the X-Men there, all the heavy hitters, Phoenix, Cyclops, Storm, Wolverine, and in the background there you just see Shang Chi. This is his first person narration here. Basically, he's just talking about the Kingpin, and when the Kingpin threatens the X-Men in terms of killing them, Wolverine goes berserk, launches himself at him, says, "Save the corporate doublespeak for the stockholders, bub, because we're the ones taking you down." Phoenix says, "Wolverine, wait, you have no idea what you're up against." And here we go. This is the kind of dialogue that Ben Raab is writing that I don't like. Like heck I don't, Genie. He says, "My mutation may make me look like an animal, but that don't mean I ain't man enough to read the papers." So just this way of shoehorning in exposition into the dialogue is irritating. Fat Boy over here is the self-styled kingpin of crime. You see the way it's working? The same mobster that ruled the New York underworld for years. Everything being shoehorned into the dialogue. There's no need for that. We can just have that information in third-person narration captions. I'd much prefer it, and for the characters to talk more naturally since they know each other for years. What does Kingpin say in response as he snaps his fingers there at the end of his little speech? He says, "I am but a humble importer and exporter, little man." And that reminds me of Sidney Greenstreet's character in Maltese Falcon. And it seems to me that some of Kingpin's dialogue is patterned on Sidney Greenstreet's in Maltese Falcon, and that's pretty good. I like that. So he continues, he says, "Nonetheless, you should consider your tone carefully around me, not only because I possess the life-sustaining elixir vitae. You and your genetically gifted comrades have journeyed so far to find," snaps his fingers. What's going to happen next? Well, a door opens and we see the cover here. It is Cannonball. He's upside down. There's that same syringe pointed at his heart. And here we've got all these various lab technicians. And Kingpin basically just talks about how Cannonball is going to be used as a guinea pig for this experimental vaccine for the legacy virus. It could assure that the boy is forever safe from infection, he says, or it could make him yet another victim of the deadly germ. And while I've no real desire to harm him, I assure you that I will without hesitation, unless, of course, you'll forgive my rather draconian means of interrogation and confess who it was that sent you. I give you 2 minutes, says the Kingpin. So a really nice image here, lots and lots of detail, basically a variation on the cover. And then the scene switches below in Fujikawa's highly protected docking bay. That's the name of the company that the Kingpin is chief executive officer of in Hong Kong. So this is really nice design work here by Pacheco on these vessels. I'm not sure if they're ships or submarines, but they look decent enough. And I like the way that the digital coloring is showing the water reflecting on the hull of the ships. That's nicely done. These two security guys are talking with each other, and Pacheco has a little bit of fun with the cigarette lighter there. They're talking about mutants and how maybe there are some mutants going to show up in the area. And indeed, the irony is a mutant does indeed show up and pulls them into the water. It's the Black King there. And here's this little fun that Pacheco's having with the cigarette lighter. You can see the reflection of the guy with the cigarette in it there. That's nicely done. And then just dropping into the seawater. And then in the third person narration, we just get things about Sebastian Shaw, the Black King, that we already know. But what's he doing in Hong Kong? He's looking specifically for a treatment for the plague threatening both the human and mutant communities, the legacy virus. But to know Shaw as his reluctant allies, the X-Men can attest, is to know that not a single charitable thread is woven into the fibre of his being. So he's here thinking about things that we readers already know about the Kingpin and the Elixir Vitae. Again, all this information is getting repeated and repeated and repeated. So we're not getting a very efficient script here by Raab, which is something that, you know, deserves to be criticized in respect of this issue and how it is scripted over Lobdell's plot. So Shaw here is thinking about how if he gets his hands on the elixir, not only will I be personally protected against infection, the supreme position of power on the world stage will belong to me. So that's what he's after, personal protection and power, and that's what Shaw has always been about from the very beginning since he first appeared in the X-Men comics. Now, there's just a little Easter egg here. This comic that one of the security guys was reading turns out to be Mutant X, a new title from the X stable of comics. So a little Easter egg there on that particular page. Really great artwork on these pages. The artwork is excellent throughout. The scene switches back up above with the X-Men facing off against Kingpin. And Cyclops tells Jean, can you hear me telepathically? Of course she can. They have a psychic rapport, and that is always operating. But, you know, this is more of this exposition in Raab's script. Everything is getting explained, over-explained. Even this little piece here, absolutely hubby dearest, just to tell new readers that these two are married. Just as sure as I am that that syringe isn't getting anywhere near Sam. And of course she has to say, as long as my telekinesis holds it in place. So there's a telekinetic barrier there. Sam isn't going to get injected with the Elixir Vitae. Cyclops says to Kingpin, all right, Kingpin, this is how it's going to go down. We'll leave you to your own devices, but not until you release our friend and surrender the elixir and all records related to it. So obviously Kingpin isn't going to do that. He says, despite my massive bulk, I am myself a master of the grappling arts of sumo. While I might enjoy using those skills to put you children in your place, my designs are much grander than any of you can comprehend. Now, there's absolutely no way Kingpin could, with his mastery of sumo, withstand Cyclops' optic blasts. That's just sheer bravado on Kingpin's part. But what does he do? He clicks the top of his walking stick. Luckily for your friend, he says, those designs do not currently include murder. So we see the little manacle there unlocking around Sam's arm. I think a little sound effect would be nice there, a little tick or something as it snaps back. And Jean says here, it's a strange decision on Pacheco's part to focus in on Jean's lower body there. But in any case, it reads perfectly fine. Go limp, Sam, she says, I've got you. Are you okay? So again, more interesting design work where we've got a huge Sam here in the background, and there we have him flying up out of the contraption that was around him and saying, and again, here's more of this irritating, at least for me, dialogue. Except for my wounded pride in those fuzzy minutes, I haven't suffered any serious bruises, Phoenix, he says. And now, here we go, more exposition. Now, I may be the newest X-Man on the block, but there's one thing I don't get. How does a big-time mob ruler get involved in this kind of international intrigue? So, here is a good piece of dialogue, because when praise is due, let's give it. Wolverine says here, answer the kid's question, Kingpin, or else by the time I get through with you, folks are going to be calling you the stick pin. I like that. That's good. Some praise for that. What does Kingpin say? He's not at all bothered. Ever the pugnacious one, looking for a fight. You cannot win, eh, Wolverine? Well, very well then. I will tell you how. So now we're going to get a big explanation of how it is that he's in Hong Kong, and it has to do with events in Daredevil 319 to 325, Fall from Grace. So the Kingpin has clawed his way up the food chain in Hong Kong because of a gap in the criminal market. I clawed my way up from the depths, inch by bloody inch. Reliable sources informed me of a growing schism within the Oriental crime syndicates, a situation born of the death of my Asian counterpart, your father, Shang Chi, he says. So Shang Chi is there all the time saying nothing. Shang Chi's father is Fu Manchu, but at this point in history, Marvel had lost the rights, the intellectual property rights to Fu Manchu, so they're not able to use that name. But that's who is being referred to. While his passing left behind a great many treasures for the taking, none was nearly as profitable, as seductive, as irresistible as this veritable fountain of youth. It's the elixir vitae again. Everybody's talking about it all the time. Here it is. Planning on living forever, Willie, says Wolverine. Because, of course, the Kingpin's full name is Wilson Fisk. The thought had crossed my mind, he said, as he walks away. And now Shang-Chi's got something to say. The quest for immortality consumed my father, Westerner, he says. Ultimately, it was his undoing, and so shall it be yours. And Kingpin says, my desires line up with myself. Rather, they encompass the world at large. With those individuals who have suffered, are suffering from, or will suffer from the greatest epidemic of our age, imagine the price any of them would pay for a drop of this precious fluid. And that's very interesting in the context of a video review made in 2024 and all the memories of events dating back to 2020 and 2021. Kingpin is right about this in many ways. No, he says, my intents are no doubt similar to those of your alleged ally. Do you truly, he's talking about Black King, do you truly believe this person shares your altruistic motives? So that is an open question. We get the third person narration here, and as the X-Men face the unsettling fact that they're caught between a rock and a hard place, a near and dear member of their extended family faces an unsettling situation of her own. So Jubilation Lee has been kidnapped, abducted by Bastion in Generation X number 27, and she's here in the dark. Turn the page, and Bastion is in the prison cell with her. And he says to her, any attempt to escape would simply result in your termination. After all, what is the life of one mutant in the face of humankind survival? Because that's what Bastion is all about. So she says, I guess that's what your zero tolerance group is all about. He says, do we not have the right, no, the responsibility to protect our future? Mutant kind, through the very laws of nature and evolution, spells the gradual extinction of the human race. I cannot allow that to occur. And she replies, and what's going to happen once your plan kicks into high gear? Mutant registration, relocation camps. And again, the prospect here is of the dystopian future of 2013, Days of Future Past, coming into being, despite the apparent staving off of it back in the classic Uncanny X-Men 141. So this is all setting up for the next big X Comics event, Operation Zero Tolerance. And then the scene switches back to Hong Kong. I really like this establishing shot of the Fujikawa headquarter building there, and the older style junks. I think that's the pronunciation, junks or yunks, here in the harbour. Really nicely done by Pacheco. And we're going to have a little telepathic conference here among the X-Men. I like the reflection of Kingpin in Cyclops' visor here across his head. That's nicely done. And Cyclops telepathically says to Logan, stand down, I don't want to provoke him. Storm, as co-leader, here's more of this exposition in the dialogue so that readers understand that Storm is co-leader. I would appreciate your input on this one. So what does she have to say? She's going to, there's going to be shoehorned in exposition into what she says. Having been a thief in my youth, Cyclops, and having been around men of unscrupulous natures, I know that honour is not a part of a criminal's nature. Fisk would sooner destroy the elixir than surrender it. We must be willing to do the same. So Kingpin knows that they have been having a little telepathic conference, and he asks them what's their decision. And just at that point, the Black King arrives, smashing and punching his way through the floor. That's a nice anchor image of him there arriving. And Kingpin says, the ignominious Sebastian Shaw. Ignominious there really meaning embarrassing. Seems that I'm not the only cat with 9 lives present this day. So Wolverine's had enough, feral Wolverine. He says he's going to take both of those bozos down. Cannonball's going to back him up. And Cyclops tells them. And I love the way that Pacheco communicates meaning with hand gestures. He's very good with hands and body language. And that's good stuff from him. As you were, you too, says Cyclops. I want to see how this plays out. So how is it going to play out? Well, Kingpin has backup in the form of the Sifan ninjas that used to be loyal to Fu Manchu, but now they call me master, he says. Therefore, they will kill or die at my behest. So now we've got a standoff. And Shaw's thinking, it appears my gambit has failed. The X-Men were not able to secure the magical substance from Fisk. So here we go. We've got Sebastian Shaw, we've got Kingpin and the Sifan ninjas, we've got the X-Men, and we have Shang Chi there in the background. So are we going to get a big fight? I mean, like, I would enjoy a big fight now if there were going to be one. But no, there's no fight. Wolverine says, I like the design of the full vertical panels here in this particular one with no borders. Looks like we got ourselves a little Mexican standoff here, folks. Now, who do you think is going to be the first to twitch? So we get these close-ups on Kingpin and Sebastian Shaw, and we have Shang Chi thinking here, long had I hoped to put these games of deceit and death behind me. And so that gives us our title for the 3-part storyline. In exchange for the peaceful path of, so of is missing their little error, of an enlightened warrior, but seeing these men rush towards the same gaping maw of insanity into which my father sadly tumbled, I now know that my own quest for peace lies in preventing such spiritual corruption from coming to pass ever again. And no matter the time or the place, the master of Kung Fu shall return to stop them, because he's been in retirement, in effect. So what are we going to have? Are we going to have a fight? Well, Storm puts an end to it. A big display of her lightning power. She destroys the Kingpin's lab and the elixir vitae as well. And then she's all regretful here in this panel. What have I done, she thinks? Had I allowed this conflict to escalate any further, there is no doubt that all parties involved would have suffered serious casualties. But here we go again, we just learned it earlier, she's co-leader of the X-Men. Why is she thinking it to herself? But as co-leader of the X-Men, it is my duty to prevent that from happening. Still though, we had no hard evidence that the elixir possessed any Panachean properties for victims of the legacy virus. I shudder to think that I may have just destroyed their only hope. Very, very long-winded. So Cyclops says, game over, people. The elixir is gone, and so are we. Don't try to stop us, Fisk. It will get ugly. So he basically acquiesces to them going. And what does Shang-Chi have to say? No action from Shang-Chi in this issue. Didn't throw a single punch. There's a valuable lesson to be learned about your opponents, gentlemen. though it may happen neither today nor tomorrow, nor even the day after that. The X-Men will find a cure for the legacy virus someday, and they will do it on their terms. Okay, fair enough. Let's get past the ads here. The X-Men are flying back to New York. And what does Cannonball have to say? Well, that Mr. Shang Chi sure was a nice fella, he says. He said the darndest thing to me before he returned to his pilgrimage. He said, the dark is but a precursor to the light, yet every light casts the shadow of its own darkness. Weird, huh? Wolverine, loosely translated, Hayseed, you can't have good without evil and vice versa. Whoa, that's deep. No, it's not deep. It's yin and yang, and it's not that deep. Indeed it is, Samuel, says Storm, for even though we succeeded in halting the march of two of the most insidious men on the planet, it may have been at a cost greater than we may ever know. By eradicating all traces of the elixir vitae, we may have eradicated a potential key to unlocking the mysteries of the legacy virus. We just had that in our thought balloons just a couple of pages earlier. Forever. Don't be so hard on yourself, Ro. A Pyrrhic victory's better than none at all. Right, Genie. And he's playing X's and O's there. I do like the way that Pacheco has them. There's the X's and O's board set up there for this particular end panel. I like the way that Pacheco has the characters doing different things across the three issues. He really is an excellent artist, and he's putting in everything into the art of these issues. Double letters page here, where the letters concern issue 62 of X-Men. So that's Carlos Pacheco's first issue. New penciler Carlos Pacheco made a very nice debut on this title, says this particular letter writer. Next month, First Blood. So what does that mean? Oh, hold on a second. We have to wait for the last page or two. But this bit here, it would appear that Shang Chi got better following Marvel Comics Presents. To be honest, that story has yet to be fully worked out. Stay tuned. And if you want to see more of Shang Chi, write to I want to see more of Shang Chi, care of Bob Harris, Marvel Comics. On the basis of this 3-issue story and Shang-Chi's appearances in it, no, I don't want to see any more of Shang-Chi. Very, very boring. So here we go. There is a big upset for the X-Men aboard their jet. They're jostled around. Some sort of psionic energy lashing out at me, says Phoenix. And can Cannonball see what's up? I sure can, Storm, he says. And whoever or whatever it is, let's turn the page. We're going to get a double page spread, surprisingly. I think we're in deep you know what. So, what is this big ship here around them? Attention, X-Men. You will surrender yourselves to Operation Zero Tolerance immediately, or you will be destroyed. So this is First Bloods. Will the X-Men surrender, or will Bastion's men draw First Blood? Find out next month. So this is Operation Zero Tolerance, the next big X event. And I don't know, this is a waste of a double page spread, to be honest with you. We could have had this on just one page. That would have been fine and fair enough. And use a double page spread earlier in the issue. But you can see, like, this last part of the 3-part storyline, it's pretty thin stuff. This whole story could have just been 2 issues, in my opinion. And then we have some editorial type advertisements. Of note here is Claudio Castellini. I really liked his work in the mid to late 90s. Good stuff. He's pretty good with Conan and Silver Surfer and characters like that, an Italian artist. And we have an advertisement for Hulk 454, the first issue penciled by Adam Kubert. So there's the splash page there. Adam Kubert, new penciler. So that's pretty nice stuff. Yeah, that was a nice run on Hulk by Adam Kubert. Really great art. Advertisement there for Amalgam Comics. So it's we're getting into 1997, and the comics industry is in big trouble. So the 2 old rivals, Marvel and DC, beginning to collaborate in order to see if they can save themselves and the industry. And Amalgam Comics was a success at the time. Well, for me, this 3-issue storyline, Games of Deceit and Death, had its strengths, and those were in the art department, and had its weaknesses, and that was in the story itself. The underuse of Shang Chi in the story. He came across as a boring character really after the first issue, and basically did nothing in this one. And then also Ben Raab's script, too much exposition shoehorned into people's thought balloons and speech balloons. Too much for me. And really I felt it betrayed or showed how young he was, and the fact that he was coming in to write the script from editorial and taking too seriously the idea that everything has to be explained for the potentially new reader. But do let me know what you think about this issue in the comments section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.